What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to Heart and their album Little Queen, brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Trucker Kev. Thanks, Trucker Kev. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link on the end screen. All right, Kev knows a lot about music. He will give us a little bit of his insight on this album. He says, after gaining traction with the previous Dreamboat Annie, the Wilson sisters, Ann and Nancy, along with the original Heart band of Steve Fossen, Howard Lees, Michael DeRosier. Previous songs such as The Great Magic Man and Crazy on You established them as a hard rocking band. We have a song battle of that very thing up. Also, they became known at the beginning, too, for their classic Zeppelin covers. There's actually a cover to Stairway to Heaven at the end of this album, but it's on the bonus CD, so we're not listening to that song, but it's actually on there. They have never denied the fact that they were beyond heavily influenced by Led Zeppelin either. In fact, they originally began as a Zeppelin cover band. I did not know that. You also have the Fisher brothers here, Roger, guitar and multi-instruments, Mike at the production helm. Some call Little Queen their closest album to Zeppelin, and they're pretty close to it. The beginning Charge of Barracuda, very similar to the classic Achilles' Last Stand. The beautiful Sylvan song Into Dream of the Archer holds very close to the Battle of Evermore with the mandolins and just a whole lot more. The great songs such as Barracuda, the ever so awesome Love Alive, Sylvan's song Dream of the Archer are fantastic. Straightforward rockers such as Kick It Out would almost seem like filler, but really isn't. And then there is just this really neat little thing called Say Hello, where they were having some fun. And the rock and title track with its awesome middle breakdown, and the ending as it starts out slow and then begins a little heavier and fades out onto two great songs. I'm going to go ahead and give you a score. I don't always do that, but up front, because I think it's good. It lets you know where he's coming from. It's my favorite Heart album, and I give it a 9.0. Still, I listen to it very, very often, along with a lot of their other 70s output. And like many of my choices, because they're just awesome, I do not have any favorites. I like it all start to finish. It's one of those all the way through albums. I like every cut. What really stands out on this album, too, is the musicianship, along with the production, but especially the musicianship of everybody together. Ann also plays flute in addition to her powerhouse vocals. Just a rocking album, start to finish. Great write-up from Kev there. I found a little bit on this album. It's their third studio album, released in May of '77 by Portrait Records. It was recorded and mixed at K. Smith Studios in Seattle from February to April of '77. 9 in the US, 34 in the UK, 2 in Canada. You're going to find that when I give some chart stuff. There's really nothing from the UK. The group intended Magazine. I mean, there's a story behind this album, right? They intended Magazine to be the official follow-up to their debut album, Dreamboat Annie. However, a contract dispute with their label, Mushroom Records, resulted in the group signing with the newly formed Portrait Records, which was a division of CBS, which is now Sony BMG, as the record labels have shrunk down to only a few huge labels. The Mushroom contract called for 2 albums, and the label took the position that they were owed a second one. On that basis, Mushroom attempted to prevent the release of this album and any other work by Heart. But then they took 5 unfinished tracks from Magazine and added a B-side and 2 live recordings. The first release of the album in April '77 included a disclaimer on the back cover. The court eventually decided that Heart was free to sign with the new label, but indeed owed Mushroom that second album. Therefore, Heart returned to the studio to re-record, remix, edit, and resequence the Magazine recordings in a marathon session over 4 days. A court-ordered guard stood nearby to prevent the master tapes from being erased. What a crazy thing, right? And they just wanted to bust it out and get it done so they could move on, but they also couldn't do it horribly, right? You don't want to release something that's horribly because your name's on it. Little Queen was released on May 14, 1977, and the reworked version of Magazine entered the Billboard charts on April 22, 1978. With a successful single Barracuda, Little Queen outsold Magazine handily, eventually earning a triple platinum certification. However, the almost simultaneous releases also gave the band the distinction of having all 3 of their albums, Dreamboat Annie, Magazine, and Little Queen, on the charts at the same time. So that is pretty cool. Pretty difficult to do, but especially difficult to do in the 70s. Before we get into this thing, just a reminder, the music will not be in the video, but it will be at a Vimeo link below. So click on that and follow along with us. And this thing opens up with the powerhouse Barracuda, written by Ann Wilson, Roger Fisher, Nancy Wilson, and Michael DeRosier. The lead single only went to 11 in the US, their second top 20 in the US. This one did go to 2 in Canada. Ann revealed in interviews that the song was about Heart's anger towards Mushroom Records, which I just talked about, but who, as a publicity stunt, released a made-up story of an incestuous affair involving Ann and Nancy. The song particularly focuses on Ann's rage towards a male radio promoter who came up to her after a concert asking her how her, quote, lover was. She initially thought he was talking about her boyfriend, band manager Michael Fisher. After he revealed he was talking about her sister, Nancy, Ann became outraged, went back to her hotel room, and wrote the lyrics of this song. Producer Mike Flicker added on there, Barracuda was created conceptually out of a lot of this record business BS, which I was talking about at the start, right, with Mushroom Records. Barracuda could be anyone from the local promotion man to the president of a record company. That's the Barracuda. It was born out of that whole experience. All the way up in March of 2019, an interview with Gear Factor, Nancy revealed the guitar riff for this song was inspired by the riff from Nazareth's cover of the Joni Mitchell song, This Flight Tonight. Nancy said, we'd been opening for a band called Nazareth in Europe and also for Queen. And Nazareth had a hit with a Joni Mitchell song they covered called This Flight Tonight that kind of had that riff. So we kind of borrowed that. We made it into Barracuda. And we saw the guys from Nazareth later, and they were pissed. You took our riff. But I mean, it happens. She said that's what kind of what everybody, borrow from what you love and then you make it your own. It's one of those sounds too. It's one of those guitar tones that I'm still trying to figure out what we did. It's hard to create. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Trucker Kev. All right, the legendary Barracuda. It's a legendary song for a reason, right? It is fantastic. That guitar riff is just next level, man. This song has 393 million streams on Spotify. The next closest song on here has 4 million. So it's kind of insane, like how over this song is still all these years later. And the lyrics are really good too. I mean, back over time, we were all trying for free. You met the porpoise in me. No right, no wrong, selling a song, a name, whisper game. In other words, if the real thing don't do the trick, you better make up something quick. You're going to burn to the wick. Oh, Barracuda. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, all these little nuances in here, just taking shots at the record company. I love it, man. But, the instrumentation on this from the jump, besides Ann's powerhouse vocals, I mean, are just great. Roger Fisher on the lead, Howard Lees on the rhythm are great. Michael DeRozier on the drums, Steve Fossett on the bass. Like, it's all, and of course Nancy. It's all fantastic. Nancy's doing acoustic on this one, at least according to the liner notes, which aren't always correct. Next up, we have Love Alive. Ann and Nancy Ann Fisher are all the writers on here. Love Alive. That's a really good song, right? It's almost like two songs in one, too. The acoustic guitar, which Nancy was on that, was just absolutely fantastic, man. It was next level. She's also on the auto harp. She's very talented, a very talented instrumentalist. Doesn't get the credit she deserves, man. But yeah, and I mean, Ann sang it to perfection. But the tempo change there and just the instrumentation, not in a hard rock way. Like Barracuda was like a totally different song, right? The hard rock and the riff, everything there. This is the total opposite, dial back, and every bit is fantastic. So yeah, really good. Next up, we have Sylvan Song, which is an instrumental. So we're going to let it roll right into the song after that, Dream of the Archer, which according to the liner notes on the 2001 remastered CD, Nancy said, quote, recording this song felt like staging a gypsy opera, complete with the angel choir. So we're going to let these two run together. All right, Sylvan Song into Dream of the Archer. Interesting, they made them separate tracks because they really could have just been one track, right? Because Sylvan Song's an instrumental, and then it rolls right into Dream of the Archer, where Ann hits her vocals right away, and quite the vocals. They are her powerhouse. Her holding that note with about a minute and a half left is insanity. Like, she does not get enough credit for in the history and the wars of rock vocalists, how fantastic she is. It's a totally different song as well. Obviously, with Nancy and Roger playing dual mandolins, that's what gives you that tone to this song. So definitely a different song. Definitely a little shades of some Led Zepp in there as well, as Trucker Kev mentioned in the beginning. Now we're going to finish out side one. And remember, we're in the late 70s here, where vinyl rules. 8-track's still around a little bit, but it's all about vinyl. It's all about sequencing your album. We started with Barracuda. We end the side out with Kick It Out. It's all written by Ann. It was the third single, went to 79 in the US, 67 in Canada. All right, Kick It Out. Just a fun rocker, right? And the guitar work on here and the drumming are just fantastic. You've got Nancy Wilson on the piano. So she's went from acoustic to mandolin, played some auto harp, piano, as well as contributing vocals to 3 of these songs. So Nancy putting in the work. Roger Fisher on electric, of course, on lead guitar on here, but Howard Lees is also on lead guitar on here. He's already played acoustic, piano, Moog bass. So, I mean, you're talking about some really accomplished musicians here. Michael DeRozier, fantastic drumming on here. And just a fun song. think Kev mentioned it at the start, just a fun rocker. They're just letting their rock chops kind of run a little bit here, but a very varied, no pun intended, side one, like all kinds of different stuff on here. Let's go to side two. We start off with the title track, which was the second single, went to 62 in the US, 58 in Canada. The title track, Little Queen. Nice song, 5 minutes long. Doesn't really feel like it. I like it at the very end. I mean, the story of it, it fits in there, but Magazine at the very end, before the last little chorus comes in. Magazine is the name of that album I talked about that got released that they really weren't on board with. So kind of funny that it's in the title track. Little Queen, little reference of it, but nice riff in there. Next up, we have Treat Me Well. This one's written by Nancy. According to the liner notes I talked about on the 2001 remastered CD, Nancy said all the candles were lit for this one. It was written in high school, and it was such a magic moment to actually lay it down in a real studio. All right, Treat Me Well. Not a ton to it lyrically, right? I mean, it's a fine song, but I think the highlight of this song was the arrangement. It's very interesting. Had a couple, maybe three even change-ups in there where the tempo of the song just changes and you don't expect it. So I think they did a good job of dressing this song up. Like I said, it's not bad or anything, and sounds good on it, but yeah, that was the star of it. We got 3 tracks left. We got Say Hello. Say Hello. Just a nice light arrangement on that, right? That was my favorite part from the very jump. Just the lightness of the arrangement kind of just made you feel good, put a smile on your face. Once again, not a ton to the lyrics. Say hello to all your secret light inside. Build up your fire. Take a ride. I know there'll be a night when you won't want to hide. Say hello. So I come out of that shell. But well done there. All right, we got 2 songs left, but just like on the first side, we're going to play them back to back because we got Cry to Me, which we're going to play into the next song, which is basically the second song's an instrumental on this one, right? Go On Cry. There's just a couple lines of lyrics in there, but it's basically an instrumental. So we're going to play out the rest of this album. All right, Cry to Me going into Go On Cry. I like the little harmonies in Cry to Me. I thought that was pretty good. And then taking it into this song. Once again, they could have been one song. I guess it just comes down to whether you want 10 tracks on your album or 8. I mean, there's no wrong answer there. But Sylvan Song and Dream of the Archer was the same way on side 1, the 3rd and 4th song. Well done. Good way to end this album because I think it highlights the real strong positives of the album. So with that, we'll go into my favorite tracks, and then I'll share my thoughts on the overall album. My faves are all going to be on the front side. I think honorable mention to kick it out of my faves are Barracuda and Love Alive. Now we'll get into my overall score. So it's interesting, right? I mean, Kev gives us a 9, and I get it because, Kev's obviously a trucker Kev. He's actually an over-the-road trucker. He drives all over the place. And so he gets a lot of time to marinate on this music. And as you do that, this is definitely one piece of music. Listen to it from start to finish. Although I know most people have just listened to Barracuda, the first track, the Spotify listens tell me that. But got to roll through the whole album. It really is a whole album listening experience, as really all of Kev's choices are. And that's really the way it should be done. That's the way the music was intended. But I kind of just feel like on this album, like you have really great talent on all sides. Kev mentioned at the start, the cohesiveness and tightness of the group. Like the instrumentation and musicianship on this thing is just fantastic. Like it's way, way, way up here. Not just the guitar work, you got the mandolins, you got Nancy on the acoustic, you got Roger Fisher on lead guitars. Howard Leese is doing a little bit of everything. Mike DeRozier doing just yeoman's work on the drums in here. And then Ann is just a powerhouse on anything she does. Any style. She wants to rock you out. She wants to hold the note. She wants to dial back. She can do it all. So you've just got absolute superstar talent on this thing. I think the quality of songs overall isn't that great. They raise that level, right? They raise that floor of the songs. They probably could have actually benefited from having a songwriter singing other people's songs. I think it could have showcased their talent more. I don't hardly ever say that about a group. Not that the songwriting's bad, but I think with their talent, this thing could be so much better. Those are just my thoughts because they're like as a whole. When you just take each one, they're just fantastic. So on that, I'm troubled with what to really rate this album because obviously it's first listen. If I listen to it over and over, I'm sure it'll grow on me. And I don't think it's bad at all. I think it's a really good album, and I think it's cohesive. I think it's a little light in the fact that I wonder if doing Magazine at the same time or right before it, if you could have molded these two albums together, there's probably better material. That's probably part of the problem, that you're trying to stretch material over 2 albums super quick so they get out of that record deal. I'm going to be like a 7.75, maybe an 8. I don't know, 7.75 to an 8, just based on musicianship and like the talent is here. The songs aren't bad at all. Barracuda's a Stone Cold legend. Some of these other songs are pretty darn good. Love Alive is really good too, and they do some cool stuff on here. So anyway, let me know what you think of this album down below. I mean, I'm sure, like I said, maybe I'm off on this thing. Maybe it is a 9, and it could get there for me. Not bad at all. I mean, actually really good. But man, Heart was good, right? Heart was good, and I only knew Heart from the '80s stuff, Alone and all that stuff. These Dreams, when they became really big mainstream and push into the pop side of things, which you had to do in the '80s. I never knew this '70s stuff. Where they're a totally different band, and you just really see the chops that they have. So let me know your thoughts below. Give it a thumbs up if you haven't already. Give it a sub if you haven't already. I appreciate that. And until next time, I will see you.